Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our mid-year product showcase. Before we begin, I'd like to quickly go over some housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send out the on-demand version via email after the webinar has ended. We really encourage you to drop any questions if you have any in our Q&A section, and we'll try to get to as many of them as possible. There are a few accompanying links that you can access under the Docs tab, so take a look at those for more information. And with that being said, I'd like to hand it over to our first speaker, Roger.
Excellent. Thank you, Nagin. Thank you, everybody, for joining. As Nagin mentioned, my name is Roger Shimkowski. I'm on the marketing side here at SnapLogic with a focus in AI. And I'm going to be joined throughout the webinar by my colleagues, Nitin Singhal and Michael Nixon. So let's kick off with focus areas for today's showcase. So starting with our AI offerings, GenAI App Builder and SnapGPT. Then I'm going to pass the torch to my colleagues who are going to be talking about something very exciting in the realm of augmented data management. So before we dive into the SnapLogic AI advancements, I want to take a moment for those who are not familiar with SnapLogic to share that generative integration is our vision and mission for the future. We deliver on that mission with our unified platform that makes it easy for everyone to integrate, automate, and orchestrate, whether that's an AI-driven application integration or data workload. So whatever it is you're looking at, that's what we're here to do. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit more specifically about GenAI App Builder and SnapGPT. And so there's a lot going on this slide here, so just give me a few minutes. So both SnapGPT and GenAI App Builder are part of our AI suite, and both have made significant progress this year. So we're going to start at the top with GenAI App Builder, which, if you're not familiar with it, is a bundle of Snap packs and pipeline patterns that simplify and accelerate integrations with LLMs and vector databases. So GenAI App Builder became generally available earlier this year with initial connectivity to OpenAI and Azure OpenAI and Pinecone on the vector database side, and parsing utilities for PDF, Markdown, and HTML data. Since GA, we've added connectivity to Anthropic Claude on AWS and Google Gemini, which will be coming extremely soon, very soon. And we've also expanded connectivity to additional vector databases and traditional databases that are supporting vector fields, including Snowflake, MongoDB Atlas, PG Vector for PostgreSQL, Amazon OpenSearch, and AlloyDB for Google Cloud. So with these additions, we are now achieving that which we normally strive for, which is to be able to give our customers, you, the choice between which cloud you want to use and which technologies you want to use. Now, for the last section on the far upper right corner, if you've already put any time into parsing unstructured data for AI use cases, you're likely familiar with one of the common pain points, which is parsing PDF files that have text, images, and tables all in a single file. So to that end, we've added connectivity to unstructured I/O and Adobe PDF Extract APIs to further simplify and accelerate the parsing of unstructured data. So now let's go ahead and move on to the lower section here for SnapGPT, right, which is kind of the other side of our AI coin here. And with SnapGPT, which is our integration co-pilot, and I will show this here in just a moment, actually live, we've added skill discovery, which is something I will show, but really comes down to the ability to understand what SnapGPT can do for you inside of SnapGPT, so you don't have to leave it and learn it somewhere else. We've also added the ability to generate SQL queries, expressions, mappings, and the ability to suggest SnapLogic and custom patterns, and then finally the ability to analyze a pipeline. So I'm going to show you 3 of those skills here in a demo. So let's go ahead and hop over to that real quick. All right. So we now see my SnapLogic designer. And on the right-hand side, if you're not familiar with it, is where you can find SnapGPT. If you are a SnapLogic customer and you're not seeing it, it may be because the SnapGPT icon up top. So you'll see when I click on that, it goes away. Click it again, it comes back. If you're not seeing that, just go ahead and reach out to your CSM and we can help get that enabled for you. Now, as far as skill discovery goes, what we're really referring to is each of these little buttons or toggles, if you will, and you'll see that they kind of give a initial prompt. And if I just come all the way down to the bottom, how do I ask about SnapLogic? And I submit this prompt. This is what we're kind of talking about with that skill discovery, right? So we're coming back with an explanation, link to Integration Nation, which is our community, and then additional skills down below that we can keep going through and figuring out a little bit more about what SnapGPT can do for you. So for example, if I hit generate SQL, here we can see now I'm actually going to get a video of how I can make use of this. And this would continue to go on as you explored those additional skills. So I'm going to stop with SnapGPT for a moment and hop over to talking about a GenAI App Builder pipeline. And I'm going to weave in some more SnapGPT as we go, just so we can keep seeing that functionality. So for this particular pipeline, I'm going to go ahead and validate this as I'm talking. This is a relatively straightforward and simple one. The goal here is to basically take a PDF file and get it ready to send over to Anthropic Claude. So if you've used Claude or ChatGPT to send a file and then ask questions about it, that's what we're basically enabling here, except for at scale, right? So a little bit of further explanation. So the first three snaps, if you're familiar with SnapLogic, have already been around. GenAI App Builder introduces this concept of a prompt generator snap. And if I just hop over real quick and I show you, so if we look, you can see that each of the LLMs we support has its own prompt generator, because we need to prepare the prompt and output it in a way that's unique to each of those APIs. And then to actually take a look at the prompt, we can just hit edit prompt here. And I see it's a little small. Let me see if I can make it a little larger. The content of it isn't super important, but the idea is that I put in a research paper and I'm just asking some fairly basic things like summarize the abstract and results, and then count the models that are used. So if I close this, oh, I apologize. There's one other thing I wanted to say here. So this looks like a literal piece of text. I do want to say that we could support mustache syntaxing too. So if you're not familiar with it, it's curly brackets. And we do have an article that we can follow up with. I'll get it in chat afterwards. Okay, so mustache syntaxing, there we go. So let's cancel here. Now, a little bit of what's changed. So we had a prompt generator when we first came out with the AWS Claude snaps. What's changed is this ability to hit the advanced prompt output. And that's what's going to help us set up that messages API. So if I take a look here at the output, we're going to just go in real quick and take a look. So this messages piece of the JSON here is what we're trying to build out. Let me make this a little larger. Right, so we can see here that it's got my prompt. And if I drill down into this top one, we can see that it actually has my file. Right, so base 64 encoded. There's my file. So it's going to be passing that in along with my prompt. Now, if you're not familiar with doing something like this, or you haven't done it with ChatGPT or Claude yet, one of the main reasons that folks are doing this is obviously to ask questions about a research paper. But in terms of just pure enterprise integration, it's also very useful for things like extracting totals, subtotals from something like an invoice or a purchase order. So the final piece that ties it all together is going to be our actual call to the LLM, right? So the first one, the yellow snap, is just setting up the prompt. Now we're actually going to call that LLM. And if you're familiar with SnapLogic, you know the suggest functionality. So if we just click here, we can see all of the different models that are supported that I have access to with this account. And then to actually use that messages payload that we've created is just a matter of checking use message payload and then selecting messages here. So it's fairly straightforward. And again, I should have said this earlier, but I apologize, but there's two advantages of the messages API. So one of them is that you can send a file like this. The other one is that you can have the back and forth conversation with Claude. So initially what we were, looking at was the chat completions, which is more of like a fire and forget situation where you can just send the request, you get a response back in terms of maybe what the invoice contains or what the research contains. But if you have follow-up questions, they would each be a separate call. So the messages API allows you to have that continual conversation and send the data in all at once. So that's an example of what GenAI App Builder is doing. It's this idea of taking all these integration tools that we've already had, these connectors, these endpoints, and being able to tie in an LLM or vector database along the way. So now what I want to do is introduce you to another SnapGPT skill real quick. So we're going to pull out a mapper and add it to the end. And I'm just going to make this a little larger so we can see what's going on. Whoops, it's stuck to my cursor. All right. So Now, when we click in here, you can see it says explain your expression and click the SnapGPT icon. So it's this little flower at the end. So let's say, for example, that I know I want the first item of that text array. So I can say, give me the first text entry in the content array. And I hit the flower to get SnapGPT to help me, and it's going to give me that expression. So I'm going to pause there, because if you think about that, that's using natural language instead of having to have knowledge of the expression language. And you can see that that's going to help move things along a lot faster. So that example worked with the incoming context. But what if we wanted to generate something completely new? So just as an example, I could say today's date as a string. Okay, we use SnapGPT again. And it's pretty quickly coming back with these explanations. So let me just put date. And we're going to validate this again. Right, so it's not just in the mapper too. I can show you in just a moment here, but that SnapGPT is field level help with your expressions in any snap that can be turned into an expression. All right, so I'm going to expand this to verify we did get that clean data out. Now, to make the point I was just talking about, if I come back to Claude and I look at messages, right, different snap, I still see that same SnapGPT flower. So any field that can be turned into an expression can make use of SnapGPT for field level expressions. All right. Now, the next skill that I want to cover for SnapGPT is analyze pipeline. So I'm going to hit analyze this pipeline. That's just the skill discovery button. So it's going to educate me on what it is that it does. But if I actually want to do it, I can type it out. And now what we're going to see is we're going to get a report back about the quality of this pipeline. And we're going to go through that a little bit together just to make sense of it. So here's the report, and I can see in the chat window I have some high-level results as well. So at a pipeline level, we're seeing pipeline does not have an error handler. So if we're thinking about moving this pipeline into production, that could be a pretty good indicator that this pipeline is not quite ready, right? We need to have error handling for certain jobs. The other thing we can see here is that pipeline does not have any notes. This is registering as an informational one. Not a requirement, obviously, but something that could definitely help. Now we can look at the snap analysis. So I'm in a lab environment, so we have a few of these that are unknown snaps in the lab. If this was your environment, that would just mean maybe a custom snap, something that's been built in-house or with professional services. Pipeline execute, right? So the one calling my child pipeline to do a little bit of cleanup. We can see here that the snap name itself is not similar to the pipeline being called. So what's happening here is basically it's alerting me that we might have some confusion. If somebody was coming in to read my pipeline and simply saw pipeline execute, it doesn't tell them in the snap name what exactly it's doing. And that might be something to know, could cause some confusion. The other thing, and something similar, is that we get another alert about the child pipeline name. And then here we see Snap has one reference to date.now. And it says, consider changing this to pipe start time to maintain a consistent timestamp for all records throughout the pipeline execution. Okay, so let's just try that, right? So if we come back here, go back to our mapper, and let's try something new and say, give me pipeline start time as a string. And again, we're going to call SnapGPT. And here you can see we're getting some more options, right? So it just continues to help me in that acceleration. Again, pipeline validation shows I still have a valid date. And so let me save this. Validate again, and we'll just show that we're all the way through this. And that covers kind of an example of GenAI App Builder and then several of the skills that are newer for SnapGPT. All right, so taking a look at that final output. Here we have it. All right. So that's it as far as the demo goes. So let me hop back over to slides here. And we covered demo. All right. So let me wrap up on the GenAI side by explaining that, what are the things, like the value here, right? We're trying to help you be able to achieve amazing results faster. So for the first point, right, 30 times faster than hand coding. And this is because we have industry-leading connectors and utilities for data integration, app integration, LLM integration or orchestration, vector databases. We have patterns like intelligent document processing and retrieval augmented generation. We're also 2 times more efficient at data processing, and this is because we're optimized for both structured and unstructured data with JSON documents. That's a natural language for LLMs and APIs to be using. It's something we've been using for a long time, so we're just set up to be that efficient from the get-go. And then the last point here is up to a 4x lower total cost of ownership, because you're bringing that app data integration, AI integration, and APIM all into a single platform. Right. And so that's how we can help customers like you achieve that lower TCO. All right. With that, I would like to introduce my colleague, Nitin Singhal, to join me here on stage. And I'm going to turn things over to him to talk about augmented data management.
Thank you, Roger. Thanks, Roger, for talking about such an intriguing and fascinating set of features and capabilities in our GenAI Builder product suite. Hey, folks, good morning, good evening, depending upon where you are. My name is Nitin, and I'm the VP of Engineering here at SnapLogic, responsible for data and our Snaps ecosystem. Before SnapLogic, I was at Twitter for many years, building their data management and privacy infrastructure, and also spent many years at Visa and PayPal, playing various data leadership roles. By the way, I'm often tagged as data practitioner in the company with a goal and added pressure to bring a pragmatic and perspective that you all share when we evangelize and build data products. So that puts an added pressure because I have responsibility to represent you all in terms of what problem we want to solve. So, as I was talking that, one of the my added responsibility is that how I represent you all as a way to understand what problem we are solving. So in that process, we talk to you, we talk to industry experts, and also learning from our own experience. I will talk about some of the problems that we are thinking and some of those snapshots that you see on the screen. Like, there is a situation, IT wants to transition from a legacy HR application into a new one. And the question is, can you give me a list of all the data pipelines on the old system? And I can tell you, discovery of such information is very slow and human dependent, because you're chasing people who know the system, and it is not a very convincing and comprehensive response that you can trust. And there's always a question mark. Did I miss something? Then somebody wants to run marketing campaign using email ID of customers. You all might be worried, as you want to ensure responsible and compliant usage of data and want to understand where data is coming from and what usage rights we have. I was at large social media company, and there is a public news about data coming from 2FA, two-factor authentication, and user sign-on was mixed. And we ended up using both for marketing emails accidentally. So they had to pay hundreds and millions of dollars a fine and signed a consent decree for decades of work in a very controlled way. And actually that deaccelerates some of the work, and that also means a lot of revenue lost. Then there was world's largest payment network where we built a fantastic data API, but then there was a friction with banks because nobody agreed on whose data entity was owned by, like who owned that data. And we should not be landing into these situations in the late stage of our data products. Many companies are adopting federated models for data integrations. Data integration is in the hands of what we call citizen integrators. You all might depend upon resources that are across different geographies, working in a variety of setups. Could be employees, could be contractors. You might want to see a system where we can tell who is doing what, and even help in transitioning and consolidation of work from one team to other as needed. And this is needed for business continuity. Then there is a classic problem of duplicated and redundant data assets. I would love you all to comment and act if this is a problem. Means like every single time, wherever I was, duplicated and redundant data is what slowed me down. And sometimes I was doing wrong things. Sometimes I was actually doing the analysis on wrong set of data sets. Data surface area and volume grows faster and multiple times than customer or revenue growth is a common problem. And I'm sure that you all can relate to that. The challenge in answering the question above is that there is no easy way to understand the total and complete surface area and volume of data assets. Knowledge about integrations, transformations, and origin of data is in the head of human beings. And there is no system that can surface these insights with confidence and trust. Answering a simple question like, can you tell me complete list of data assets and how they are used, remains a daunting task. I'll also talk about Thomas Frey. I love the quote where they says AI's blind spots represent Achilles heel that can undermine the effort to create truly informed and inclusive AI system. Truly believe in that, because these blind spots essentially areas where AI or any data application might lack sufficient information can significantly impact the accuracy and applicability of the insights generated. As AI technology or any data needs become daily commodity, predicting financial market, diagnosing medical condition, or even providing legal advice, the accuracy of the decision and prediction make dependence and on the breadth and depth of the data. As history tells us, Titanic sank not because it didn't know that there was an iceberg. It sank because it could not estimate or assess the risk under the water. And that is what our vision is about data management. We want to eliminate blind spots, ensuring complete visibility and control over your data assets. This transparency transforms hidden data into actionable insights, driving informed decision making and business success. With this, I will transition to my colleague Michael Nixon, and who will talk about cool demo and details about our new product called Integration Catalog. Over to you, Michael.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? So what we'd like to do now is we're going to walk through our integration catalog, what it's all about, and provide you a hands-on demo and see it in action. Okay, so we're really excited about that. First of all, let's talk about the architecture. So we are ingesting metadata. This is something new we are doing with our environment. We're ingesting metadata that's business-oriented, metadata that's operational-oriented, as well as endpoints. All the endpoints you would expect, the source endpoints and the destination endpoint, and also we have AI infused into our integration catalog, and it's all hosted on a SnapLogic environment. And so let me hit some of the highlights in terms of the environment itself. So you now see a screen grab of what the UI is like. And from here, again, it's a new capability for us, for those of you who are already SnapLogic customers, and then for those of you who are not, it can be provided within your enterprise package environment. So as I mentioned, you can view sources, you can view destinations, but the best thing to do is actually see it in action itself, right? So what I like to do now is bring up a live environment. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and we'll see it, okay? So I'm going to switch to my environment, that is SnapLogic. And so with that, I am going to share a different window, okay? And right now you are in the SnapLogic designer environment. So off to the left here, we have various project folders we refer to. And then within each of these project folders, there are a ton of pipelines. So say if you wanted to have faster discovery of this environment, why, with our new catalog, we can go to our menu here. We're going to select on our monitor environment. All right, so now we're going to switch to the integration catalog, and voila. So you see all of the pipelines that are in my particular Connect Faster org, and you can see that there are over 100 different pipelines per page. So if you think about it and you look down here, we see over 80 pages. So that's 8,100 pipelines. So how in the world can you discover endpoints faster and understand really what's in your environment with so many pipelines? So we make that easy by providing a catalog capability that allows you to see all these different attributes in terms of columns, right? And so we have some columns already pre-selected here. And so let's say I wanted to filter on a particular source or a particular destination. I'm going to add these filter criteria, and this is what you see now on your screen. So now that I have the filtering capability, let's say I want to look for a particular endpoint. So let's say I was interested in seeing Workday. I'm going to select Workday. And so the filter returns the all of the pipelines that have Workday installed. And let's say if I wanted to pick something else as well, let's say NetSuite. What other pipelines are engaged that involve NetSuite? So now you'll see pipelines for NetSuite here and Workday. So we have over 2 pages here of actual pipelines. So this really speeds up the discovery, as Nitin was mentioning, about how to really observe into your environment. And so you see all of the columns that are available per this view. But let's say you wanted to do something a little different. Let's say you wanted to have metadata for your own environment. And so I'm going to get out of this menu here and collapse this now and show you how you can do custom metadata. Because with custom metadata, you can now bring or import, if you will, some very specific metadata that is for your particular environment. As you see, we're in a different environment here, and we're now going to show you the task in actually creating custom metadata. So once you click on custom metadata area, you're taken to a space that allows you to download a template. This template will give you the format necessary to actually input your actual metadata. So we're going to open up that spreadsheet, and you're going to see in this particular case an environment with roughly about 15 pipelines or so. All right, and then you have the ability to specify the metadata within that environment. So now what we're going to do is actually now export that, right? And here you're going to see a blow up of the actual metadata, and we made some changes to some of those pipelines you see in the first couple of lines. And so just follow the cursor and you see that there. Okay, and so we're adding new parameters. For example, records, the actual platform that it's running on, tickets, and things of that nature. And so once that's in place, we're going to upload it into the pipeline area. And this is where you see we click on upload the CSV. We select our modified file. We bring that into our environment. And so now you'll be able to see the metadata displayed across the catalog readout. And if we wanted to click on a particular pipeline to actually expose the metadata, right? So what you're going to now get is a breakout screen that shows you the custom metadata. And as you can see, it is now there. So that's pretty exciting, so that you can now manage your environment based on your specific business needs. So that could be for FinOps purposes, that could be for managing resources, or if you just want to now have an ability to search by way of what that metadata criteria is, you can also do that. All right. So that is pretty exciting capability that we're now bringing in new to our SnapLogic environment. So that's one area of advancement that we've now made for you. So let's talk about something that's also coming up very soon. Along with custom metadata, you will be able to do or take advantage of AI that is infused into our catalog environment. And AI will do things like, for example, auto pipeline documentation. So we're now going to get into my environment again, and we're going to see this firsthand. And finally, here it is. We are very excited to show you the preview of AI-generated pipeline documentation in the integration catalog. This is our first step in augmenting the catalog with automatic contextualization of integration assets using our generative AI capabilities. When users navigate to the catalog and click on an integration record, they are presented with an auto-generated short description of what the pipeline does. Users who own or manage the integration record have the ability to edit the generated short description. This step ensures that the description aligns with the specific pipeline use case and the necessary domain knowledge. In addition, you can also generate long technical documentation of the pipeline. Once generated, you can edit it further as you best deem fit to improve readability and understandability of the design of the pipeline, such that you can share it with your fellow integration architects and data engineers. We believe that Automation of documentation using AI will not only improve productivity, but also reduce the cost of data operations through better integration efficiencies throughout your organization. So that's a summary of all the great things we wanted to talk about and bring to you about our new integration catalog and its fast discovery, metadata, custom metadata, and its AI-driven automatic pipeline documentation capabilities. So I invite you to click on this QR code to go to our website and download our datasheet for additional information. So at this time, I'd like to turn it back over to my colleague Nitin, who will talk more about our augmented data management vision.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Roger, and thank you, Michael, for the demo. I know, there is a lot in it, and there is a lot coming. So I will take few moments to talk about where we are at this moment in our journey as we launch a series of products in our augmented data management capability. So Michael talked about integration catalog. This is a feature that is in production. We are launching. You all have access to that as you need it. And we feel good about what problem it is solving. So data asset catalog is an organized inventory of data asset, as Michael said, providing easy access and a comprehensive view of available data for better management and utilization. And one thing I will emphasize is there are two things. Sometimes the facts that look very obvious and the inventory that looks complete is not as complete because you have different denominators in the head of people. Like, I'll tell you one thing. You all might want to go and check simple thing that how many APIs we have within the company, or how many data sets BigQuery has if you're using that as an analytics system in your house. I can bet you, right? Different people will give different answers. And the consistency and how we reconcile information varies. And all those blind spots result in us making wrong decision, or actually there is a cost that is burning without us knowing that, because there might be a data set that is sitting on an active storage, nobody is using it, and we are not aware about it because nobody is paying attention to it because it's not visible. Catalog will provide that information. And on top of that, as Michael mentioned, it gives you ability to add your custom metadata, so you can override what we are prescribing or what we are presenting. So it becomes one single source of truth for you in the organization. Data lineage. Data lineage is something that I'm personally very excited about it. Like data lineage, as I mentioned in my previous turn, that data can come from variety of sources. It can come from user sign-on. It can come from third party like Axiom. Like say you might be engaging Axiom for finding the demographic information about customer, and then there is a two-factor authentication for the risk purpose. Each of these three sources have different obligations and promises. Like user sign-on, you need to have customer consent before you can engage them. Two-factor authentication, the data is 100% locked only for risk and authentication purpose, and it cannot be used for anything else. Third parties is you have a contractual obligation in terms of what you can use it for and what you cannot use it for. But if their data loses originality and if data loses form factor when it lands into analytical system, and you do not have that context and the source, you might end up making wrong judgment and wrong decisions and wrong use of that data. There is also a thing about like we want to audit transformation. Like say, in one of my previous company, auditors wanted to audit the transformation to understand, are we filtering any data that would cause bias in the model based on gender and race? And that was like learning for me as well, because, hey, okay, there can be a bias, and that integration, series of integration and how those things are done is a critical aspect for us to produce things that are inclusive and it is meeting all the regulatory bar. So essentially what we need is a graph and traversal path of data to identify first point of ingestion. I will double click on that. Lineage means first point of ingestion. Lineage is not actually representing a SQL into a table dependency or finding the job dependency graph. It is identifying first point of ingestion for data that could be sitting disconnected in different sources of your analytical and operational system. In my last 15 years, I have tried to build data lineage variety a number of times, and I would say that I failed many a times. But I have developed a hypothesis in last few years, and I feel that it works, and that that perspective is data lineage instrumentation is a top-down success, and it is not possible bottoms up. That means we, as SnapLogic, when the pipeline runs, we have instrumented and seeded data lineage at the time of pipeline execution. So that means it is factual, and it will stitch information together across unconnected data source and then lineage it back to where data is coming from. So feel proud about it. That feature is coming very, very soon. And we will also be launching APIs with some of the top catalogs players. Like say, we'll be launching an API that will integrate lineage into Colibra. So stay tuned, and we'll be making marketing announcement of that. Then the final thing is AI augmented data management. Michael already mentioned about, we are already integrating AI models in the backend to create comprehensive knowledge graph and how we are describing pipeline. So our goal with AI augmented data management is going from retrospective to proactive and prescriptive. So what it means is that would help prevent wrong actions from happening, or at minimum alert proactively. For example, cost visibility when data moves from one source to another, or prevent creating a duplicated pipeline, or stop use of sensitive data for wrong purpose. And we really want to make sure that we partner and solve problem that helps you unleash the potential of your data, and you spend your time where it makes most sense, and we take some of the pains away from you. Thank you. With this, I'll hand it back to Michael and Roger.
It's great. Thank you for that walkthrough, Nitin. That was fantastic. So we definitely want to encourage you all to go out to our website and to learn more about some new events that we have coming up in the future, including our Integrate Tour, which will be hosted in San Francisco as well as in London. And so you go to our website to register, and just want to make you aware of that. So we hope that you found today useful in terms of understanding some of our new GenAI capabilities, the SnapGPT capabilities. So thank you, Roger, for walking through that. Thank you, Nitin, for overviewing our strategy and our vision for augmented data management. And let's see, we have any questions that we wanted to take in terms of Q&A or anything like that? So
there is a question.
Yeah, so is there any cost in enabling the integration catalog? It is included with our enterprise package. So if you're an existing customer, I invite you to go out to your CSM or your customer success manager and have the pipeline or the catalog activated within your account. So very easy to access. And also it is deployed by org. So if you have multiple orgs, you'll have to have it activated in each of those orgs. So we know that many of you have multiple domains implemented in the SnapLogic environment. So just be aware of that. Okay. So with that, I believe we hit our time, and in terms of what we wanted to share with you, and we want to thank you all for attending, and see you next time. So once again, have a great day, and we'll see you at our next event.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks all.